Hello class. Today I'm going to be talking about child assessment guidelines, specifically for best practices for the WISC-5. This presentation is based on my paper for assignment 3.1. The focus is on why cognitive assessment matters, how WISC-5 should be administered and interpreted, and how results should be shared in a way that truly helps the children and the families. And the goal is to show how careful assessment can guide ethical and effective interventions. This topic is interesting to me and kind of close to my heart because I don't know if you guys know the dean of the online school, Dr. Beatty. He had raised 6 kids, and they're all, like really successful doctorates and stuff. And then they adopted 6 that have a very high level of disabilities, lots of it from drugs from the birth parents. And so I see how sad it is to go get assessments that here your kid's never going to be like all the other kids, and like how weighty that is. And so I was interested in this on how you like share that news, and so I appreciated this topic. Why child cognitive assessment matters. Specific learning disabilities are being identified at a very high rate in American students. Research shows that these students often have cognitive profiles that look different from the typically developing peers. But the field does not always agree on definitions or diagnostics or treatment guidelines, and this creates a real risk that children may be misidentified or not given the support that they actually need. That's why accurate and thoughtful cognitive assessment is so important. Without it, it becomes very difficult to know how to best help a child. The WISC-5 is one of the most widely used tools for assessing children's cognitive functioning. One of its strengths is that it looks at both the strengths and the weaknesses rather than focusing on the deficits. When results are interpreted carefully, they can help increase understanding of like how a child learns, and may even build up the child's self-esteem. The WISC, by talking about strengths, the WISC-5 can guide decisions about diagnosis, education, planning, and appropriate interventions. There are several best practices that must be followed when administering the WISC-5. First, the standardized procedure must be used so that the results are valid and reliable. The examiner must be properly trained, of course, and competent in administering the test, and the testing environment should be comfortable and free from distractions. Ethical responsibilities must always be followed so that the assessment is fair, appropriate, and professionally sound. Developmental and cultural factors play a major role in testing. Age and cognitive maturity can affect how a child understands instructions, how long they can pay attention, how quickly they respond. Children may need breaks or simplify the instructions into words that they can understand, especially the younger children or those that have the developmental delays. Cultural and linguistic factors are also important. Language, background, familiarity with testing, and whether the norms fit the child's backgrounds must all be considered to reduce bias and increase fairness. Building rapport with the child is essential for accurate assessment. Anxiety, fatigue, and low motivation can all lower test performance. When examiners create a supportive and calm environment, the children are much more likely to show their true abilities. Observation during testing is also important. The examiner should note attention, effort, emotional responses, because these factors all help explain the test scores and guide interpretation. Interpreting the WISC-5 results requires specialized training and ethical care. Examiners should only interpret results within their area of competence and avoid overgeneralization from one single score. They need to look at the big picture. Confidentiality must always be protected, and scores should never be viewed in isolation. Instead, they should be combined with clinical judgment of knowledge of the child's background and current functioning. Developmental linguistic factors and interpretation. Developmental and linguistic factors continue to matter during interpretation. For example, younger children may show lower working memory or processing speed scores because of fatigue or limited attention rather than true ability. Language-based subtests depend heavily on vocabulary and prior experience. Even nonverbal tasks can be influenced by exposure and learning opportunities. Interpreting results within the child's developmental and cultural context helps prevent misinterpreting. Best practice requires integrating multiple sources of information. This includes school reports, the things that the parents bring to you, examiner observations, and that's in addition to the test score. Relying on numbers can lead to incomplete, inaccurate conclusions when you look at just the numbers. When data from several sources are combined, the examiner gains a more complete picture of the child's strengths, challenges, and needs. When you share the result, after the assessment, results must be shared in a clear, supportive way. Index scores, percentiles, and confidence intervals should be explained in simple language without heavy jargon. It kind of goes along with our discussion board. Both strengths and weaknesses should be discussed in a balanced and positive manner. Most importantly, feedback should include practical recommendations for interventions and accommodations so that the family and teacher can know what to do next. And like thinking about Dr. Beatty's family and like how sad that is when they get those reports, I believe that I would want to be overly positive about the good things because that's less painful, but to be fair and to get the child the help that they truly need, it has to be a very fair and accurate interpretation of both the strengths and the weaknesses. Cautions and conclusions. In conclusion, the WISC 5 scores provide valuable information. They must be interpreted with caution. Anxiety, motivation, attention, and cultural factors can all influence performance. Diagnostic validity may vary across different populations. By following professional guidelines, using ethical judgment, and recognizing limits of test scores, examiners can use assessment to guide interventions that may truly change a child's educational and emotional trajectory. And after putting this together with the discussion board and thinking through things, I just feel like there's a heavy weight that goes with this when you're giving bad news to the family, because whether the child can understand it or whether they can't, it's something that they will hear about and that they will carry with them the rest of their life. We all know how easy it is to hang on to the negative things that have been said about us. So there's just an extra heavy need to be so careful on how we word things and to be fair and to look at the whole picture, and because we're going to be helping how that child thinks of themselves and also how the teachers in school and such will react to them. So this chapter feels like pretty heavy to me to make sure that we get it right as we go on, because it's just such an important thing.